Action Surge! Wow! It's happening right now.
You've got to stop scaring us like that.
I know, but it's so difficult because this is what Action Surge does. It sneaks up on you like a thief in the night, like a
Kobold Rogue.
like a burrowing owl.
That didn't sneak, though. That didn't sneak. That
very
was,
much did not
that was,
sneak.
we had to stand there for like an hour and 10 minutes. Like, you sure?
Make small talk. Just chats amongst yourself.
That felt like from my point of view as the person behind the screen, it felt like a kind of weird episode because yesterday we recorded episode 22, which by far is the most emotional and the most the most deeply felt episode we've ever recorded.
Yes.
Yep.
And if that had been a Sunday and then we'd disappeared for a month and come back, you'd feel like you were starting fresh. But it felt kind of almost strange to me to be like, oh, this is just we're just chatting, and this is it feels like it's such a different energy. And I'm confident that it was still an episode that people are really going to enjoy. But it's just like it's such a gear shift for us, I think, particularly because we recorded really late last night.
Yeah.
So we only left
So
the
it's
studio
very
at about
fresh.
8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening, right?
Oh, we were back here literally like 11 hours later.
Yeah.
We were back.
Yeah. So it's kind of the shortest, that biggest handbrake turn. Like, you're the one, Doug, who kind of, for Kel.
It was his episode.
It was his episode 22, and then we very quickly kind of shifted focus really with the Parva stuff onto I. Like, how does that feel for you at the table and as Kel kind of? Do you feel like you're still actively, or he is still like actively processing everything and wants to unpack stuff, or?
I think, yes, I think he does. I think he wants to process. Yeah, I don't know. Me personally, I don't, unless I'm performing, I don't really like attention to be, I don't like the spotlight on me. Mm-hmm. So I kind of welcomed the shift to Parvis and then to I as well.
Yeah.
But I think that works for Cal as well because he's just had some great news. He's just had this wonderful experience. Maybe he's in a bit of shock.
Yeah.
But also I think that he hasn't learned anything that has fundamentally changed his world.
Right. Okay.
If that makes sense. It's made him think about things. So when he was on watch, he was considering things that he'd been told in the past. He was thinking about his kind of semi-lack of desire to find answers to questions. And like I said in the episode, now he does actually want to find more answers because now he knows that his parents were good, at least in terms of him. They didn't just abandon him.
Yeah. It's so funny because it's such a great point because even though I know this isn't how this works, and storytelling is my job in every discipline in which I have ever been paid, and yet I completely forget sometimes that Kelnis doesn't have a well-adjusted relationship with the legacy of his parents because Doug does have a well-adjusted relationship with the legacy of Kel's parents because Doug wrote his own backstory, and of course, like Kel, it didn't even occur to me until you say that Kel might have gone through all of his life thinking, why didn't they want me? Why did they abandon me? Are they still alive? Yeah, of course. What and I suppose that makes it makes episode 22, like you say, all the more profound and comforting.
Yeah, comforting in a way. But it opens a can of worms that he was trying to keep closed.
Yeah, because now he has there's something to be revenged. It sounds like
Revengeful for?
You can do revenge.
Yes.
As the film implies.
Love that.
Yeah, do revenge.
Love that film.
Well, there's
But
also,
it did throw him because then he couldn't figure out how to get off the damn tower.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So we had He changed shape, then he summoned Hank, then he went over to the edge and he kind of went, held him over the edge, dropped him, wild shaped into a cat, then a spider, then went down, which to the outside eye is a fucking wild series of events.
I think had you turned into Segavax, you probably would have walked through.
Yeah.
And you would have had a go at it. And it's funny how the dice can dictate that, which was you going, right, that isn't going to work in the way that I want it to.
Oh God, if you'd had to have done that.
But like it's really interesting actually because and like I'll say like I think we all play D&D differently.
Yes.
And I'll say from my point of view, and this is like I would have just walked through and see what happens because like I'm like if let's just see what's the worst that's going to happen, something interesting, and ultimately something interesting does happen whatever you do.
Story. You're more concerned with the story.
Yeah,
than
I
the
don't
character.
care. I don't care about dying. I don't care about placing myself in danger. I just care about like doing things that happen for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And sometimes I hope it doesn't fuck other people up. But at the same time, we proved there were three interesting ways of getting as many interesting ways as you can come up with, and you presented all of them to us.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you did the one that felt narratively right for you, and it was the best way of doing it. But there wouldn't have been a right way of going down. If you'd done the way of getting down the building, it would have been as awesome as you coming down as a spider. It would have been as awesome as you going through there. And it's just kind of the beauty of the game, really, of like you literally in that moment when this is how brilliant the game is. It's not a problem. It's more just like an opportunity for adventure, and you picked one avenue of adventure, which was just really interesting.
Can I? So, obviously, I didn't realise, which is a mistake as a DM, that I didn't realise that you only had one use of your wings and that you'd already used it.
Well, none of us did.
However, Parvus said, "Can you make your own way down?" Because Parvus knows that Dragonborn at a certain power, Dragonborn born of certain power are able to fly, and Kel said yes.
Yeah, because
So I was like,
yeah.
great, unspoken. So Parvus could have, I would have allowed, because Parvus is so small, for Kel and Parvus to have just had one casting of Featherfall on Kel, and you could have carried Parvus. You would have fallen faster. You might have taken a bit of damage, but you wouldn't take
What if
all
he
the
had
damage.
sat on Parvus?
No, if he'd sat on Parvus, he's much heavier than Parvus. But if Kel had Featherfall cast on him, and then Parvus, weighing as little as he does, had gone in Kel's arms, the thing I worry about is then that obviously I could very easily be like, well, why don't we just cast Featherfall once for me? But then what I was going to suggest as Parvus, or immediately in those moments where it's like, oh, I've messed up, I start thinking as a player, I'm like, what would I do? Shall I tell you what I would have done as a player?
Yeah.
Yes.
If I was Raidion, I would have cast Web to catch him as he fell.
Yeah.
I would have told Kel to jump, and I would have cast Web in an area on the ship's deck, suspended between the rigging, and caught him in the web.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
How would
There's
we have
always tons of
communicated
ways to
that?
do it.
I don't know. I might not have jumped straight off.
I really...
I love the jumping straight off, by the way. That was dumb as hell.
No, because he had just said, yes, I'll make my own way.
he had said, yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
In fairness to all of us, he had said, yeah, I get myself
I
down.
really love the idea, the visual of Kel and that moment, literally, Parvus going, can you take care of yourself? Kel going, yeah. I looking at him and giving him the look of, look after him.
Yeah.
Dropping off the edge and Kel's being like, And then
Dolly went, are you okay?
and then and
don't-
Kel's like, yeah, and then
double
that moment where they're all gone and Kel just goes,
No, hang on, wait. What do you mean by okay? What do you mean by make my own way down?
shit.
Dolly and Elowen would have landed and been like, well, where are they? Because you should have been right behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like all the four of us are going to go and then like you'll follow later. We would, in my head, we were all like stepping off almost in unison.
Yeah.
But to us,
And you even said, I'll see you at Aska's.
Well, that was when I started to panic because I was like, "Oh, I knew that Aska wasn't going to take you back to Aska's house because Aska's not stupid. Like Aska can't, you can't shit where you eat. Like Aska has just, like she said, she's just gone out
Do you
into
see any other boats out here?
I really toyed. I really toyed with having Yilda have gone back to the boat and killed Aska.
yeah, I thought that.
It would have. I mean, it would have been impactful.
But I didn't see why Yilda would do it. Like I was trying to figure out Yilda's motivation. Yilda don't care.
Yeah.
Like there's no skin in the game for Yilda particularly.
Maybe
Aska's
if
not a
you-
member of the web.
Possibly if Kel had known Aska a little bit better. Or,
Yeah,
or,
if
or-
Aska had been Kel's contact.
Yeah.
Also, Yilda would have been a little bit like on like a posy high at that point because like Yilda thinks they've essentially sent Kel to their
That's a
death.
status effect, right? Like
Posy high.
incapacitated, there's posy
But like
high.
they think they've just they've done the job. Kellis is finally dead or whatever. So why would you then teleport out
Classic
to the boat? to kill-
supervillain move, by the way.
It is, yeah.
Like, I'm not going to watch you
I
die.
know.
Yeah.
It's so
And next
horrible and
time you-
cliche, but it means I can bring the fucker back.
They'll have like sharks with laser beams on their head.
Yeah.
That's where we're
and I'll
at.
move, and it'll move slowly towards
I'll
someone's
go get
groin,
a
and I'll
gun.
leave the
We'll
room.
shoot it together. It'll be fun.
If Yilda had only seen the connection that was made over food.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly.
those two,
But Yilda wouldn't have seen that.
No, she
No.
wouldn't. No.
See, Harry, I think it's a tribute to how Machiavellian I see you as a DM, because when Parvis said, can you make your own way, I thought that you had more in store for Kellis in the tower somehow, and that you were giving me a hint to
Go down through
Oh,
to
there's
do what I
something
ended up doing
do a solo
and try to
quest,
move through the tower, and possibly in that move through the tower as Segovax, that I would learn more about Kelnis's background somehow or something
Harry's
like
fault.
that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But that's why I say that's why
Yeah.
it's a tribute to how Machiavellian I see it.
No, I just absolutely failed to understand how many times you could use your wings.
Yeah.
Because also, I was like, so canonically and kind of logically, it made sense for me that Parvis would have. Casters know when they have spell slots available. They must do. There must be something in a caster that lets them know when they've got slots available, because otherwise they would constantly be trying to cast leveled spells. So Parvis must have, on the day that the collar was put on him, cast some spells, and then woken up the next morning and been like, those slots aren't back. So in my head, Parvis has kept something in reserve
Gas in the
for a
tank.
last Hail Mary, a last whatever it is. And Featherfall is a level... It's a first level transmutation. It's an incredibly powerful spell for first
Real
level.
handy.
One reaction, choose up to 5 falling creatures within range. I mean, I've fudged that a little bit. Technically, you're not falling, but I'm not having that. A falling creature's rate of descent slows to 60 feet per round until the spell ends. If the creature lands before the spell ends, it takes no falling damage and can land on its feet, and the spell ends for that creature. And it lasts for a minute, which is enough time
Did it to yourself.
to get down. So I was like, he's kept one first level spell. It didn't make sense for him to keep a second level spell. He can, and like, actually you can't upcast it. I don't know if you can maybe upcast it in the 2024, that if you expend a slot, that's not in the 2014, let me check the 2024.
Doesn't really make sense that you
That you could, well, I wondered if you could add an extra person
Oh,
for
I
each.
see.
In fact, you can't do that. It can only do 5 creatures. So I was like, well, it's also like technically not a spell you'd had access to. It's a bard, sorcerer, wizard spell, but sometimes D&D's fun.
special.
Yeah, I mean, clerics can't actually turn into dragons either. But so I was like, well, that just for me really feels like, he's like, my God, I was saving this for something, and now I'm saving it for a purpose. But then it just make him look incredibly selfish, being like, I cast it on myself. And yeah, it didn't. So I was like, I was like, yeah, perfect. We got wings.
Interesting, though, that you said that clerics can't turn into dragons. The way I saw that was she was actually a gold dragon.
She
who
kind
had
of-
polymorphed into a human
She's
cleric.
it's kind of I'm happy for it to kind of remain ambiguous, not to put too fine a point on it. But essentially, the Antiqua aren't like Parvis is not like every other kobold, and Carvelis is not like every other dragonborn, and Genevieve is not like every other human. Like, they have extra shit because they have lived for 1,000 years and are special. So yeah, I don't know whether Carvilius is a dragon who became a humanoid or a humanoid who became a dragon, but either way. Also, I don't think we ever kind of properly talked about that. That is a young adult dragon.
Yeah.
So you then have, the only thing lower than that is a wormling. Then you have young adult dragon. Then you have
Dragon.
adult dragon. Then you have ancient dragon. And then you have great worm.
I'm fine.
So there are like That is, you know, we will encounter more dragons. I promise you, as the campaign
Fine,
goes on.
we'll just hit the gem.
They ain't all that jams.
No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. We'll just hit the
nothing but
gem.
ask
It'll
the
be fine.
dragons
Don't worry
recently,
about it.
Alex.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
And then it was nice. I thought it was lovely that with the whole little Raidion Aska burying of the hatchet.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, it felt.
I'm glad you did it.
It felt nice.
I think this is one of these things where it's that, like, as much as it feels like it didn't. There are times when you can feel the story ebbing and flowing, and there are things that you can add to it and things you want to do.
Yeah.
And like, I want to contribute to the story in a meaningful way that doesn't. I apologize for doing the whole, licking the thing, but. Also, it's like when it comes to that, I'm like, that's nice. It's a nice little moment, but really, this is about this too.
Yeah.
That's what the story is about. I can be a catalyst for change. I can do things that happen, but when it can narratively, like, I don't really have a huge amount that I want to add. I don't want to constantly be like, my story is really important. So it's like, that was a nice little thing to kind of wrap up. And I was quite quiet for a large portion of the
really
episode
were, yeah.
And quite purposefully, because I was like, I think it's quite nice that this is what it's about. And there were moments where I wanted to come up to Kel, and there's something that you said about your parents being good, and that means that you're good, and you wanted to know that they were good, and I really wanted to have a conversation with you about it, but we moved on, and I was actually going to get up in the night and have a conversation with you about what you said about your parents being good, and the fact that you think that inherently makes you good, and the idea that goodness is inherited by who your parents are, and Raidion clearly doesn't have a functional relationship with whoever he believes his parents to be. So, like, it was just an interesting thing, but I thought, you know what, just leave it, because actually there's a lot more going on, and I've done enough with my fucking mushroom thing. So it's like,
Yeah, but I would really encourage you guys to be able to continue to have those conversations after the event. Like, I think it would be a real shame if, when we come back and record in however many weeks, it's like, and no one ever really mentioned the whole Kel parents thing again. Like, I think...
I will.
Yeah, and I know you will, but I feel like that's the joy of long-form storytelling. And trusting the group of people that you're telling a story with is also knowing that not everything needs to happen right then and there, but that there can be, Elowen acknowledged the idea of people beyond her own family about 4 or 5 episodes after you'd left her family. And I really like that. I really like this kind of whole Raidion wanting to live thing for the first time has been going on. And actually, I wrote down that Dolly kind of not sort of gently challenged him on his worldview a little bit for the first time, where he was like, some days I wake up and I just feel completely out of control, and other days I feel like I like who I am. And Dolly said, I think that's just being a person. And actually that you can kind of let these longer form character-driven story ideas kind of percolate and just kind of let them simmer away in the background, and that we know that we can pick them up and investigate them. I quite like the idea of Aska going and just living in Seren, or going to the castle.
I don't think she would.
No, I don't think she
way.
would. But I mean, it could use her flair.
She'd do great in Mouse, is the thing as well. Actually,
I think she'd do great anywhere.
She probably would.
That vibe. She'll just survive and thrive.
Although I think she would, and I hate to say this, she would absolutely be trying to shag Eden.
Oh, 100%.
There is no way she's not trying to get her claws into him.
Yeah, 100%. That's the kind of chaos that family needs.
Yeah, totally. They are a bit straight-laced. Can you imagine if he brought back a dragonborn woman of indeterminate age? He's pulling everyone, darling.
Fantastic hat.
Fantastic. With a series of amazing hats.
I take it back. I really want her to do it.
I think it's a great opportunity when we do go back to Mouse. We're just going to see what she's done and what she's built. And
she's going to be living in Elowen's old room and helping, taking over
Not
the
what
kitchen.
I offered. Next time I'm sending you to Yaska's, you can just join the rest of them over
Your
there.
mother was mysteriously poisoned, and now she's just
The lady.
The lady of Mouse.
the biggest hat you've ever seen.
And then, of course, the focus kind of shifted to I, and it shifted to this stuff with Parvus. And you've probably waited long. Quincy wasn't backstory. Quincy was worldview. We've had hints of Elowen, we've had hints of Dolly's backstory. We've had a lot of Elowens. We've now had a lot of Kelnisses. And we've had dribs and drabs of Raidions, but in ways that are kind of oblique. Actually, in terms of backstory, I don't think we've really had any for I. And so suddenly, I's like front and center. You know, we're now getting to a point where, you know, the arc increasingly, like these mini arcs are intended to kind of, you're kind of getting into the sort of mid-level-ish. You know, you don't want to be at level 20 still fighting your own personal demons. You know, we want to, but by the time you're heroes of the multiverse, as the I don't know if this new DM's guide still says it or whether that's the old one, but you know, you don't want to be spending too much time being like, God, I just wish I knew where my brother was. like, do you know what I mean? We need to kind of find ways of moving this, like still keeping that, but moving the story beyond the personal and into the kind of universal.
What was it like for you with the Old Dark, by the way? Sorry to interrupt.
No, please. Great.
So obviously when you first mentioned the Old Dark many episodes ago.
It was Grornoth who first mentioned the Old Dark. Yeah, back in like episode 7 or something.
But kobolds have two beliefs: that it is a real place, or it is
It's
this
a metaphor.
It's like a metaphor.
Oh yeah, it's a metaphor. That's cool.
And I guess that kind of depends. It's almost like a kind of weird religious thing. But like, what was I's belief?
It's like he always thought it was a real place.
Okay, so that wasn't a surprise.
I guess it's like kind of creationists.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think I believed it was a real place in the same way that a kid believes the North Pole is a real place. But if you took a kid to the North Pole and there was actually all that stuff there, they would still be like, I'm sorry, what? This is here?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Even though the child believes, you take them to that magical place and it's still like a thing where their brain can't quite comprehend that this place is here and exists.
And he's talking about the Old Dark, like the Old Dark is just
a place. Like it's
like
another
a place.
It's another cave.
Yeah.
So like, as you, as I, the character, the you, not the you, the bird, the me, the I. Is I like?
Thank you for giving us
That's all right.
such narrow parameters.
No, it's absolutely.
Is I excited to go to the Old Dark, or are they really apprehensive because of don't meet your heroes?
But here's the thing, I don't know if it is don't meet your heroes anymore. Learning that like it could be that I's tribe is there. Learning that kobolds have gone there, been taken there, and that feeling of, hold on, why was everyone else special enough to be taken and not me?
Maybe you were too special to be taken there.
But like that feeling is not, I don't know if it's necessarily like, oh, don't meet your hero. I don't know if, once upon a time it might have been that, but now it's a kind of feeling of, why the fuck I should be there. So why am I not there?
Yeah.
Confused rather than angry.
Well, yeah, but no, I think there is a bit of anger in there.
Yeah.
I think there's a feeling of like, because he was, until he kind of, because as well, he probably didn't know what the web was. Okay, and I think that my belief is that I came to understand about the web by simply kind of being a bit of a limpet on the side of a town and observing and noticing like little scratchings and things like that, or seeing someone doing scratchings. And I feel like I's understanding, because kobolds didn't really know anything outside them. And I feel like he kind of spent enough time on his own observing things and being hidden and being sneaky that he wasn't seen, that he kind of starts to pick up on what this was and kind of therefore kind of made some sort of tentative contact with these people and kind of getting a sense of what they were. So I think, that initial feeling of everything is for the tribe and you always have the tribe. You go back home and the tribe is there. The tribe greets you, the tribe celebrates when you come back with food, the tribe is all. So then to be left alone, having to fend for yourself in a way that you can do, but you're kind of almost like, why? Why am I going to fend for myself?
Subject me to that.
Yeah, but also, why am I going to fend for myself? Like, what's the point now? What's the point? The whole point is the tribe. The individual element isn't really the focus. So then he's kind of like, okay, well, it's literally like a part of his soul was like cut out and then taken away. So I think when if himself is there, there's going to be a sense of, you cut out a bit of my soul. If my tribe is here, you cut out a bit of my soul. If you are this god, why? If was I intentionally left, or was I an accident that was left behind? Like was it all a mistake? You didn't even know that I was out. You didn't realize there was one kobold not there. And if you didn't realize one kobold was not there, then it's kind of like, Oh, we all just little numbers, like to us, where everything is it just like, oh, it doesn't matter.
What's one, right? Just
What's
leave him
one?
behind.
Yeah, exactly.
If he's not here, don't wait for him.
But I doesn't know what it is. I doesn't know the answer. But all I knows is that he spent an extended period of time feeling empty.
That's how villains are made.
Yeah.
No, this is not the villain arc.
No, but that's how villains are made, because also, like, there is a valid reason as to why I could have been left behind, which is if this is a very tribalistic group, which is what is best for the tribe is to leave. And it's like maybe something happened where they had to leave.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's either us or this one. This, in order to survive as a tribe, we have to leave. So there's, there are different permutations of it, but it doesn't matter to I because he never sees that eventuality. So there are perfectly legitimate reasons, but also we only ever experience the world through our own personal point of view. So why would you ever think it'd be a good thing? Because even if they do use it as an explanation, it's like, but
because then
why?
even then it's I coming to understand the sense of self. There's the struggle between what is good for the tribe and what is good for I. And like if I had been part of the conversation and there had been a situation in which the tribe had said, we actually need you to leave for the good of the tribe. And I would have probably been like, done, cool. It's for the good of the tribe, I'll go. Because he's part of the conversation, he's part of the collaborative, he's part of the community in that moment, making that call, and it's for the good. But to be on the outside left without any information, for him, it's the beginnings of self and understanding self and kind of going, hold on, but what about me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something the Spinner said in like episode 0, which is about why they.
So I wonder why they left you against their nature.
Which is a really interestingly ambiguous phrase, but it supports the argument that I wonder why they left you. They left you. That it was clearly an exceptional thing. So.
Guess we'll find out. Well, hopefully we'll find out.
It's going to be
We've got a long old cave walk to do.
Yeah. It was a funny thing, It's a funny thing to try and, the way you guys react to the choices that the virtuous and the Antiqua have made.
I'm so angry.
That you're really angry with them. And I think because I have to spend so much time thinking about the kind of logical reasoning behind all these things that are happening, to me, the virtuous, the DM and the writer, they feel really quite heroic. Because from my point of view, they were engaged in this crazy war, called a truce, decided that people were safer if they didn't know about all the fucking evil that lurked beyond everywhere. We'll just keep everyone safe and we'll keep everyone here. And as recompense for the things we've done, we will do everything we can so that when we eventually die, these people can flourish. And when we're about to die, we don't want that to be our legacy. We want people to remember us so they can continue to draw inspiration from us when we go up to the mountain and we'll die at the mountain. To me, that feels flawed in the way that I want those gods to feel flawed, but it feels an imperfect manifestation of a pure intention.
That's only if you take everyone at their word, though.
Totally, of course, and that's the thing. But it's really interesting to see how angry you guys are at them.
I don't think Dolly's angry. I think she's just like...
Now she's angry.
I think it is just an exercise in, gaining information and asking questions.
Yeah.
And I mean, given everything the group's been through, I think it's fair to be...
skeptical.
To be skeptical of what you're being told.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
who by.
Yeah, I think Elowen's always had a not particularly great relationship with religion anyway. I think she's always felt like, all of this singing and hymns and these stories.
I would imagine as a member of a noble family, you'd have the equivalent of all I can really call high church. There'd be ways of worshipping Ignace as a human that would be quite kind of about the land and about having ambitions, God of ambition, right? And so having ambition, I think it was ambition. Was that a virtue? The land and...
Ignace is human ambition, yes.
Yeah. There's ambitions for the collective, ambitions for people to do well, for children to be raised healthy. That kind of, that's what, if you like, the peasant version of worshipping. But when you're born into kind of real wealth and privilege, the ambition is just just more of this.
Yeah.
So are we worshipping for another castle? Are we worshipping for another like more gold and better food. Like
It was like
what?
a pantomime, and I
Yeah.
think she's just like, this is just
Yeah.
feels so utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's nothing solid in this. This belief just feels so
Yeah.
pointless,
And it-
you're just making people worship you.
Yeah.
Also, it's just like it's the taking. It's what humanity will always do and will always resist against is being controlled. Humanity is inherently can be led towards being controlled, but ultimately it's about that fighting against fate. Almost, it's like wanting free will.
Yeah.
And so in doing so, the gods have taken that away by basically saying, like, you know, we protected you. It's like, is it protection or is it? Some people will call it censorship. You know, is it like, have you allowed us the possibility to live our lives? And there's this sounds like really self-in, but there's a line, my favorite line from Final Fantasy 16 is towards near the end of the game, and someone asks Clive what he's going to do now, and he says, I honestly don't know, but I doubt it will be pretty. A sorry tale of sin and suffering, hardship and pain. And I think it's this idea of like, but at least we will be free. And I think that's a really interesting thing, that humanity is willing to actually suffer in order to survive on its own terms, as opposed to being controlled by other people. And for clearly, that's the Elowen point of view. It's like, no, fuck that. Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, you've told me nothing, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I'd much rather find it in a messy way on my own than you control how I feel about it. But at the same time, it's like we flourish and we are a parasite. We're killing these things.
Yeah.
Our entire existence, our place upon this plane, kills. We are sucking their life force, and that's a really hard thing to accept. Is like they literally are dying for us to live, which is.
Lapsed Christians, you know what I mean?
Then didn't give you the tools in which to maintain that. So, like,
Also-
now the Shadowfell's bleeding through.
Yeah. And
There's a
and
blight
there's-
creeping across the land,
And they
But
were
also, that ain't our fault. We didn't.
No,
but
totally.
but
But
no one knows this.
I think it's almost that they were arrogant enough to assume that their power was great enough that there would never be any need for you to know how to defend yourself.
Skill issue. Their fault.
Like, but there's never been a war. And
Yeah,
now we're
there's
being
never been a war, there
attacked,
isn't
and,
an
like,
army.
my entire family were almost slaughtered.
Yeah.
Because no one has guards, not
Yeah.
real guards.
Yeah.
Like, you've got police forces.
Which was one of my kind of like main things that I just thought was a really interesting idea actually when we were doing the setting, was like that there isn't like the army of house whatever. It's just like, well, no, we got an army for. We got guards so that no one like steals sheep and breaks into each other's shops and extorts people. But why would we need an army? There's nothing out there or in here that's trying to kill us. And there's nothing out there at all. And we've won. Like, for the virtuous to allow people or to encourage people to have an army would be like an admission of guilt. The only one who resisted it actually was Aurum, who, as the legend goes, is like, nah, I want a fucking force of holy warriors. And everyone goes, oh, how twee, you've got a force of holy warriors. And then suddenly the most immediately corrupted force in the world is the force of holy warriors. You know.
And then when you've got Parvis going, we were gonna, it was our job to teach you, like, honey, you've been around a while.
Yeah.
And you haven't taught us anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't given us any information to prepare us for what actually happens when we don't have the gods.
Yeah.
And you're expecting us to be grateful?
And I'm
I
in
don't know
this
if
mess.
he, I don't know if he is. I don't know if he is. I don't think he expects gratitude. I think he's just defending his position to the point where he's like,
He felt on the back foot, I think.
Totally, and I think,
That's fair.
and I think he's been through a lot. You know, like he's been up there for a fucking while. And I'm very aware that like when you first met the Antiqua, Barabask was arrogant, Runa was endearingly uncomfortable, Genevieve was a bit haughty, and so was Carvilius, but they were kind of felt reasonably moral. Danilo and Malakine was irreverent. Danilo and Arbuthnot you never really got to know particularly. Barabask was a complete prick from the beginning, and Graunoth was genuinely good from the beginning.
Yeah.
And Parvus just seemed deeply uncomfortable and out of place. And I'm now aware that you've met 3 members of the Antiqua, and they've all at their heart, they're trying to be good. And I'm like, is that a little bit convenient? But the counterpoint to that is Barabbas.
Yeah.
And also, no shit, most of them are trying to be good. Like, they've spent their lives in service to virtuous gods. Like, Parvus doesn't... But what I'm really glad we've started to kind of get towards now is we're uncovering the reason for the schism between Parvus and themself. You know, that themself is very much like... Themself is kind of like a species isolationist. Kind of like, nah, you just worry about your, you know... We've been burned too many times before. You worry about you, I'll worry about us. And Parvus
Voted leave.
Yeah, voted leave. And Parvus is like, is a little bit more merry, saying to the Ents, but you're part of this world. And I guess I'm just fucking patting myself on the back. Because you met Parvus and Parvus didn't seem great, I think it was easy to assume that it was like vanity or shame that had meant that Parvus had strayed from themselves. And that is now revealed to not really have been the case. It was Parvus was like, join in. Like, there's a big world and everyone needs you. And if all you're going to do is look after us and say that we should stay underground and we shouldn't mix and we shouldn't see anyone, that doesn't help.
Think how powerful, and essentially an army of almost invisible assassins. Do you know what I mean? Like for them to be able to call upon.
Yeah.
If they were part of the world.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
You think they would be good as a part of the world to kill, to murder? To like think how powerful we could kill so much stuff. I hope you do other stuff.
Think of the devastating havoc we could.
I am meaning specifically in this situation.
Right.
As a defense
I'm sorry,
of,
why are
as a
we still
defense
talking
of
Chug, 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 chug.
Hey,
Wait, lad. As a defense of Reliquia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like in freaking Thaddeus, there's the crows, and their entire thing is, we don't have an army because we don't need an army because we're the best assassins in the world. If you attack us, the leader who attacks you, who makes the attack, will just be dead in a few days anyway. So that's the threat enough.
Yeah.
Is that kind of thing. It's like, you don't need to attack us
Cold
because you'll
War.
be dead anyway in a few days.
Or it would be
Yeah.
like a Discworld novel, and it would just be the Assassin's Guild, and they're all incompetent fools.
How dare
But it's almost like it's not. They're not quite the faceless men from Thrones.
No.
I mean, because also it's important that they're not. Like, kobolds are not.
Killers.
Kobolds are not killers.
No.
And also kobolds are like kobolds are strategic in as much as they know how to avoid detection. But kobolds aren't in military training to plan ambushes.
No.
That's not who they are. They're like, you know what they're kind of closest to, actually, I guess, in Rings of Power, the halflings that you meet at the very beginning, the kind of ancient halflings who are like...
The Harfoots.
The halflings. We're like,
Yeah.
we're really good at no one finding us, thanks.
Yeah.
And we're really sophisticated in the manner in which we do that.
Yeah.
But they're not like, the old, you know, pincer movement, and we should, you know, it's that's not what kobolds do.
Also, they don't have insanely weird accents.
No, they don't. They don't. Bless
What is
them.
it? What is it?
What is it?
It's crazy. It's the craziest accent.
Crazy.
You're crazy.
Crazy girl.
Crazy girl.
Crazy girl.
Crazy.
And Raidion has blind.
I know.
Love that view, hun.
Fucking idiot.
Again, just like stuff. Just have.
Well, he did.
Give him stuff to
He
do.
skipped it the first time. So
I didn't get it. I didn't get it first
No,
time.
I'm the only one who hasn't been
Never had
blighted.
blight.
Kel didn't have it. Kel didn't get.
No, I was blinded.
No,
You were
these three.
blighted.
It was me and Radiant who weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so
Doesn't look fun.
obviously, I pretended to be allergic to the mushroom. But I genuinely thought, well, I've licked it, and if I was going to have an effect on the blight initially, I was like, well, the blight, I just have like a red tongue, and then you were like, oh, you're allergic, so that's why I went more and more and more.
It was the dumbest thing anyone's ever said. I really enjoyed it.
It was fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah, because also I think it gave the weight that it gave to what was already being said was inherent in the things that you were saying about the thing. But also I think sometimes there can be, like, if it's serious all the time,
Yeah.
it means that we're just hearing serious stuff. So actually it's like, go over here and whatever that is.
And I can skip from scenario.
yeah,
to
and then it means
scenario.
also we're not in that conversation. We didn't need to
We
be
didn't
there
need to
No, you didn't.
at all. It's
Yeah.
not our conversation. Like, I really didn't want to be there when
I feel
you were
like
doing
something
it.
important's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where have you been? Something really important has happened.
I'm glad I got a Lord of the Rings reference in for you. I will die with.
Oh yeah, the highest one of them. Yeah. No, it was and now we have you.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing all about you.
Constantly, all the time.
I was going to ask a question about that actually. When you had us, it was a perception roll, and I thought, does you get a perception roll?
I mean, I guess I'm not going to keep offering you to do each
Surely
skill.
it'll kind of be really.
I think only if you were
Only if I'm
specifically-
looking through the eyes, right?
Because,
It's
I'm
be
gonna
like
say that it's
directly.
like you can give you the help action on certain stuff, but also what I don't want is for you to just be rolling everything.
I made it. I made.
We
it
talked about it before the
known
session.
to you before the session because we were chatting about it, and we had a moment where we were talking about something that could be potentially game breaking, and I was like, no, I don't. I never want to play the game that way. Like with the unknown black liquid. When you were like, well, do you want to dip it again? I was like, I didn't do it because I didn't want to take the piss by being like, and I dip it again.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, first of all, that's fun for me as a player to just keep going, I'm going to do the thing,
You don't
do the
wanna spam.
thing. Spamming is not fun.
Yeah.
And also it's not fun for the viewer when it's just the same thing.
Yeah.
Things are great when they lend themselves to the narrative in the moment as
Yeah.
well as a viewer.
Because it's also the thing where like I have knowledge of D&D, but I don't have exhaustive knowledge of every spell.
Yeah.
And so Find Familiar, I didn't realise Find Familiar took an hour to cast. I thought Find Familiar was like, it's a bit like Summon Steed, I think, but like I thought Find Familiar was like instantaneous. And I thought...
can be.
It can be.
I think it can be, but
You can cast it as a
you can
spell.
do it as instantaneous, but it will be take a spell slot.
No, it has a
I've got
casting time of 1 hour or ritual.
I've got duration. Oh, duration instantaneous. Oh, duration instantaneous.
Duration just means it
Duration, yeah.
immediately appears
Yeah,
once you
yeah,
cast
yeah.
it, and instantaneous it doesn't. So essentially, it doesn't. It's not dismissed.
No.
It stays there until you dismiss it or it dies.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's permanent.
Yeah.
Until I dismiss it or it takes damage.
Yeah,
Because basically,
because essentially it's 1 HP, so
Yeah.
as soon as it's hit. So what I thought was the case was that you could essentially spam Find Familiar, and on every, I'm going to use my action this turn to summon my familiar, and then next turn I'm going to attack, and I'll always have sneak attack because I'll always have my familiar within
Right.
X amount of feet. And I was like, oh.
Whereas if it
Or
gets
get-
hit, then you can't just immediately bring it
Yeah,
back.
it takes you an
Yeah.
hour. So essentially,
Yeah.
they're gone for that
Yeah.
combat until you can find. So, for example, if you'd had you with you at the beginning of the fight in the Sanctum, you would assume that in that first or in the second floor, certainly you wouldn't have still been around by the time you're encountering Carvilius. Because you don't have an hour to
No.
sit down and be like,
No.
shh, I need to get my little burrowing owl.
Yeah.
Also for the glossary, I want to make it clear. U is literally just the letter U.
Okay.
Good.
There you go.
It's fine, mate. I write it. It's not a problem.
And I have also realised that we're talking about jump being I have now got a spell which is also via touch.
Okay.
And that I'm not gonna say it.
I'm going to
Don't
make
shut
you
somebody
for
up.
That's actually a good one to
That is a good
keep
one.
as a surprise
Yes,
of
for
being
sure.
able to hand out via touch.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, that's
called invert
prolapse.
U sweeps down and touches Uranus.
Oh my god.
But and the Gloam are back.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so
I've
happy.
never gone anywhere.
No, and I'm really aware that I've built up I really like having multiple adversaries, and I really like having groups that you could, in theory, align with, align on certain things with. Like the web is useful. You've now chosen to remove yourself from it, but the web is useful in a lot of ways. It means that you enter a city or a town, you always have somewhere to stay, you always have someone who can give you the lie of the land, you'll always have access to the weapons that you need, you'd always have access to the supplies that you need. Information, all this sort of stuff. And in the same way, there might be, when you've never really spoken to people who are members of the Gloam. Actually, you spoke to that one dwarf who was a member of the Gloam.
I'm sure in the back.
You shot her in the back.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have,
The first murder. The first
Wasn't
murder.
that
That's
the
what we should have called that episode, the first
the
murder.
first
no,
murder.
it wasn't murder.
It was.
No, it was.
Okay, murder.
I'm sorry, you were downed by 2 arrows from the
Okay,
same
if
group.
the
that
police-
you-
No.
If the
Oh, okay, that's a reasonable.
And then you then failed so many checks that she got suspicious. Was about to wander off and be like, actually, guys, there's a bunch in the forest. It's like, there's a pink-skinned tiefling, there's a human, there's a dragonborn. They're
There's a
looking
little
for
boy.
us.
So
And
wait,
it's like,
Still murder.
That's
I mean,
still
anyone
murder.
can justify murder with
If the
lots of
police
different
came in and went,
reasons.
"What's here?" and then you explain that, they go, "Well, that
It's
is
still
murder."
murder.
so what are we going to do? Oh,
What you are currently saying
Hang
is,
on a sec.
I was committing a crime, the police arrived, I shot one of the police as he ran away. That, my friend, is not murder, I was protecting my
I know it. You're not going to back down on that.
in my defence, Your Honour, they were going to say some things about me had I let them live.
I wanted to get away with it,
Yeah.
so.
Like, imagine if they had got away with it, and then we're caught again in the forest. You went down. The first time anyone really.
I go down all the time.
Yeah,
You
we didn't know
now.
that then.
We know that now. But like at that time, it's like
Clip it.
protect the group. Elowen didn't want to take the
Listen,
masks and do that.
It's still murder. It's just we're able to justify it in the context of it.
We've murdered a lot then.
Because there's murder and there's cold-blooded
yeah.
murder.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
passion,
yeah.
murder of passion.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a crime of passion, I think that was cold-blooded murder.
No.
Do you think we're murder
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
No, you're not murder hobos at all.
No.
You're not murder hobos at all.
Because genuinely, if she hadn't
She hadn't
got
run.
if she hadn't
I'm happy to have murdered her, but we absolutely murdered
Just call it what it is.
We've murdered her.
It's fine.
if you hadn't given the game away and she wasn't suspicious, there
Dolly's
was no
No,
need.
it's my
There
fault.
was no
Okay,
need.
so you actually get murder and then Elowen just gets accessory too?
Oh, what? Because like the dragon is gonna walk away.
It's right and wrong.
still
right?
murder.
It's like the psalm, it's just two entrenched sides and we're feeding more and more flesh into
You know
the
what? Next
machine.
time the Dragon Ball be pictured
We're
of us
just
can
feeding
fucking walk
humanity
away.
into a
Go on, tell
pressure.
everyone we're here.
You've
Go on.
killed so many people. It's still murder. It's just like we had to do it.
Yeah,
We're
we
not
have to
judging
do
you,
it.
we're just saying
we have to do it.
Yeah, like we've all
By
done weird stuff.
definition.
But the gloom are back.
You were tired, didn't want to lead this episode. Left us to our own devices.
That's true.
It's your fault.
It's my
It couldn't
fault.
possibly
I
be
murdered this
Ollie's
episode. But what I'm really aware of is that the two groups that you're there are three groups that you're sort of opposed to.
Yep.
There's the Web, there's the Fortis Legion, and there's the Gloam.
Because they're our best friends now, the Fortis Legion.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so
Because we murdered
the
so
Web,
many of them.
and so what I'm trying to kind of do is keep, whether the Fortis Legion continues to be such a power within Reliquiae, we'll see. But the Web was the main thrust of the campaign at first, and also, do you know, wasn't meant to be? Did I ever tell you this?
No.
This wasn't a campaign about the Web. People just loved the idea so much, it changed the campaign. Anyway.
It is great. But it is great.
Yeah, you were only like the Web was just a framing device to get you in for a little minute, and then
it's going to come back.
You'll,
right?
well, it's I mean, it was back with Yilda.
Yeah.
like
Honey
so
has
the
never
Web.
left.
Yeah. Honey has never left. The Web
never left.
the Web is now much more. But it's just fundamentally the Web is much more important to the story than I ever intended it to be before we started playing. And then the reaction to session 0, I think, made me go, I need to make the Web
Thank God,
really
because I'm about to
important.
sell merch with it on.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Real
Yeah.
if it's not
I mean, that logo is cool.
Their logo's
Yeah.
cool
Oh,
as
it's
hell.
really cool.
But like you're kind of trying to keep all of these antagonists present and alive for you. And I was aware that we hadn't had any Gloam since episode 13.
Yeah.
And so it feels, right that 10 eps later we've essentially had bits of Web and lots of Fortis Legion, and now we've got a little bit of Gloam.
And I've been that whistle has been burning a hole in my pocket the entire time.
And you
haven't
weren't
had
going to let
one.
anyone say no, which is why
No.
you went straight.
I wasn't going to ask. I just went. I apologize to
sorry.
you as players because. But
No, I
Not
think
at
it's
all.
great.
No, it's
I
brilliant.
love it. I think it's also so much more because I'm looking at kind of how long the ep's going, and we were reaching a point where I was like, okay, I need to end this soon. And I was like, what's more dynamic? Me saying, and you begin to pick your way through the ruined city towards where there might be someone. And that's where we'll, whereas it's like, they're coming. They are coming. That's exciting.
And there are so
whistles
There
in
are
the
so many
ruined city.
Yeah.
because so we could fight them. We've got the Gloam outfits. We've got
we've got
there's
the
so much stuff we could do. I'm
robes
just
and
saying, dress up, have some fun.
And you
That
got some
went well last
time.
time.
You got
Someone
some
got to
time.
give
Like,
some time.
like it's not like they're going to be there in a round.
It's just that no, it's good. Like it is good.
He
Like
doesn't even need an outfit. It's just a rub thing. Rub his little thing.
Rub his little thing. But it's like
Here's pendant.
My little thing.
Here's pendant. Oh yeah, and I had to stick that. No, hang on.
Sorry,
I
go
had
on,
to
go on.
ensure that I clarified about the pendant because the pendant.
I was surprised
the
you did that because when we talked about it before, I said to you I was happy to.
Yeah, I know, and then I just bottled it, and I was like, it's actually just important information.
Just
Sometimes
put it
I
on
just
the
need to
table.
admit my mistake. You know, like, for example, if you've murdered someone, sometimes you just need to go, okay, I did a kill. I did a kill, I did a bad kill.
I just wouldn't know what that felt like. Though.
no.
You've murdered a lot of people.
Yeah, but just because you can't get a kill in doesn't mean.
He mind spiked he killed
Segobats.
Segobats.
Yeah.
He killed
I exploded
Segobats.
his brains, and his brains came out through his eyes.
Yeah, that's...
Didn't try and talk to him, did you?
I was too busy mourning the loss of Brian.
Yeah.
Brian.
Stupid. King
That was a
zombies.
crime of passion.
Yeah.
Once you'd seen Brian... No, once you'd seen Brian fall, there was nothing you could
It was
do.
rage.
He knew he had hate in his gut.
I miss Brian.
No.
He'll be back.
No, he won't.
He will.
No,
I'm
he
naming
won't.
everything.
Brian.
I reanimate Brian now.
No.
Yeah.
Should we roll this poly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Opportunity change spells.
Which means I get to talk about my favourite part of that episode. What was my favourite part of that episode? Ooh. I liked the anaphylaxis. A sentence I never thought I'd say. I thought it was real dumb. In a way
Which you
that...
did know you were going to say one day.
Yeah. But which I think I've said many times about stuff you'll have done. But yeah, I just thought that was so silly and such a profound waste of time.
Yeah.
And such glorious storytelling.
If you hadn't said to me, Ben, I haven't written anything today,
No, I
he
didn't.
didn't say
I
that
didn't
at
say
all.
I haven't written anything.
No.
I did say I was like, because sometimes I'll give you guys a heads up just so you kind of know what you're to expect. The time, particularly if we're going to have lots of, there's lots to do today. Lots to do today. So at the previous episode, I was like, we're going into combat. I just want you to know, get your heads in that because combat can be tricky. And so before this session, I was like, this is an episode in which there's going to be a little bit of space that if you want to take it, you can unpack some stuff and feel free to take the lead and role play. And I didn't anticipate Ben having his tongue out for a full 10 minutes. Going,
Neither did I. But also, I was very patient with that. I wasn't going to interrupt.
Yeah.
I didn't interrupt with my tongue. I just had my tongue out waiting.
I mean,
Your Honour,
I feel like having your tongue out.
I feel like having it's very much like I didn't actually do anything. I
having
just
your hand
unzipped
up
the
in
fly and
class.
stood next
Isn't
to
that
someone.
thing
Yeah.
It's like that thing that Raidion did when he was walking around being like, no
You
one
want
asked
to
me what I'm
ask
thinking.
me what Right, let's begin with the People's Princess Alex Jordan.
Sure, you want to start me?
Yeah, I do, baby.
100 and 43.
What?
Where we
Can
go
you,
through?
can you go through number by number what you got?
90.
90 on the percentile.
Yep. 17.
Yep.
7 on the 8. And then on the 10, I got a 10. And then on the 6, I got a 4. On the 4, I got a 3. And on the 12, I got a 12.
Jeez.
Where were those
what
in
a
your perception?
roll.
Can we all say, on the same day that I rolled for the damage, and I rolled the 6 on the 8 on the D8, and I rolled
when you roll
3
max-
6s
yeah,
on
you
my
roll max
D6.
damage.
I
You
think
rolled
I can
max
say
damage.
you are the best person to have ever rolled a dice.
Ever rolled the
Best to ever do it! The best to ever do it!
Actually, I'm the only person to ever roll.
Crazy. Alex is the only guy to play D&D.
Yeah.
Who'd like to follow that?
I will.
Go on.
You thought yours was big.
Status quo at Live Aid.
Genuinely, you thought yours was big. No, mine's 80.
Okay, sure.
I just thought I'd get the medium ones out of the way.
Yeah.
I'm middling around. I'm 77.
77. Go on, Doug, break 3 figures.
97.
Oh!
I haven't been over 100 in
No.
like 10 episodes.
No, it's, I think
crazy.
you must be right towards, well, I don't know. Does that mean that Doug, we think, is right towards the bottom of the road?
You can check for
You can check. You
Six-Packpedia.
can check.
No, I'll be in the middle
absolutely-
somewhere, I
I'm
think.
absolutely
Community are
lost.
tracking it.
Take us home,
No,
Wilson.
that was my lowest for a while, 88. I have
You've been on a
consistently
run.
gotten over 100 for a while.
Was your,
Yeah, but you deserved it because you had a bit of a bad streak.
what was your highest?
I can't remember, 130 something. I think I don't.
I think
It's 143, the highest, because
I
that's
think
like
it's the highest
That's
we've had.
almost as close to.
Yeah,
it's
of
like,
course.
Why don't you
Yeah.
on the internet now? Just go on the Six-Packpedia.
Do it now. No, I got 149.
What?
Yeah, in episode 21, I got
You
149.
disgusting boy.
Bastard.
You
Well,
mushroom
we're going to go
eater.
and discuss the legality of murder and the idea of culpability and crimes of
There's
passion.
nothing to discuss.
Thank you so much for joining us on this week's Action Search. We'll be back next week with more story. And until then, we'll see you next time for more adventures in the world of Reliquiae.
Or maybe the world of Shadowfell, who knows?
D&D!